Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. So today we get to take a look at the latest generation for the Dodge Challenger SRT Super Stock. Huge shout out to Carolina Auto Direct for providing this for me today. Definitely take a look at their website. They're always getting in some very cool inventory. That link is down in the description. So this Super Stock is finished off in indigo blue. They have a starting MSRP right around $85,000. And underneath the hood, this is powered by the 6.2 liter supercharged V8. It's paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission, pumping out a whopping 807 horsepower, 707 pound-feet of torque. This particular Super Stock has been modified. It's pushing 980 horsepower to the rear wheels. This weighs in right around 4,400 pounds. It'll do 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. Top speed is 168 miles an hour. It also has a fuel capacity of 18.5 gallons. You'll expect to see around 13 miles per gallon in the city, 22 out on the highway. This also has a wheelbase of 116.2 inches. Its overall length is 197.5. It has a width of 79.2 and a height of 57.2 inches. As we move to the exterior styling now for this Super Stock, you'll also notice that it does have the factory wide body kit to give it that added aggression. But as we start up front, everything looks like a normal Challenger. However, this does have the 2 snorkel inlets on the hood that are functional to provide even more cooling to that engine. And they have a really nice bubble design on both sides. Underneath that, there's the very thin and classic upper grille with SRT over on the driver's side. And you will notice too that the inside headlight housings are actually hollow. This is to provide even more airflow, and surrounding them is the turn signal, and then the headlights and high beams are on the outer housing there. So really cool how they've deleted basically another light, but it provides you with even more performance functionality, as well as the grille in the entire lower section. And then there's also the massive front splitter, which blends in nicely with the wide body fender flares. So as you can tell, that curves around and then goes right up to the fender flares on the side, where we have the fender flares, which provides about another 3 inches or so of width on both sides, so around 6 inches wider than a normal Challenger. Now this is the factory wheel and tire setup. This is a set of 18s with a gray finish to them. This also has Brembo brakes with 6 pistons up front and 4 pistons in the rear, and then a very sticky Nitto tire to provide you with a lot of grip for this model. Now there's the red eye Hellcat badge on the side there, body colored side mirrors, no sunroof for this model, and then it looks just like every other Challenger from the side with the very distinctive line that runs right through the middle. There is some gray trim in that lower side skirt there. As we work our way to the back, we have a very large gray trunk mounted spoiler. There's the backup camera, LED taillights with that ovalish design to them, and then the dual exhaust and parking sensors are in that lower diffuser. Let's take a listen to this though, because we do have remote start. Here we go. And then if you just hold on that button, you can shut it off. You can also use the button on the key fob to open up the trunk, or there's a hidden button just underneath the backup camera. So push on this and you can easily release the trunk. Now the Challenger is a very large 2-doored sports car, so you have a lot of trunk space. There are no back seats for the Super Stock, so that is a fixed panel. So all you have is the storage behind here, but it's honestly enough for any items that you need to place. Obviously anything longer wouldn't fit, but there's a ton of space to make this a practical daily if this is your choice for a daily. Now as we work our way to the interior, there's leather on the armrest, the window adjustments, side mirror controls. This also has the Alpine sound system. And then there's a little bit of storage in front of the release handle as well as in the back pocket there. And then as we work our way to the SRT seats, they are finished off in leather with more of the stitching, have a nice design to them. This is the handle that would push that backrest forwards, allowing you to enter the back seats. However, for this model, you could put some additional storage in the back, maybe some racing helmets, or just anything that you need. So it gives you that practicality. However, you do lose 3 seats. A normal Challenger is a 5-seater, so a little less practical. But as we hop into the front seat, we have the leather and perforated steering wheel. There's also paddle shifters on both sides, as well as volume and tuning adjustments. So those are underneath both of those. On the right side, there's the cruise control settings. Left side, there's Bluetooth and voice commands. And then these arrows will go through the digital gauge cluster. So let's fire this back up and take a listen to how this sounds. And coming back to the gauge cluster, on the left side there's the tach, right side there's miles per hour. You will notice both of those are lit up red, which is really neat to see. And then in the middle, currently we're looking at the speedometer. We can go through a lot of vehicle information as well. So there's a lot of vitals that you can quickly monitor and go through, just depending on what you need to see. You can also go into your performance pages as well. So if you want to do some performance driving, you want to monitor all of this information, you can quickly go through all of that. There's also fuel economy, which is not too important for this model. You have some trip information, your audio and messages, and then you can even go into the screen setup. So in the upper left, there's range, upper right is your average MPG, and you can configure those and change them depending on what you would like to see the most. There's also diagnostics and then a speed warning. So it's pretty configurable to go through all of that. Now on the left side, there's the headlight adjustments along with some dimmer switches, a release for the trunk, still have the foot e-brake located in the footwell there. And then as we work our way to the infotainment system, all the info in the lower section is configurable. So you can drag and drop all of these apps depending on what you use the most. Currently there's media along with climates. When you go into climates, you can also get into controls for the heated seats as well as the heated steering wheel, where you'd like the air to go. Temperature dials are on both sides, laid out very well. You have a shortcut like I just mentioned, and then you can even go into some items like your SRT dashboard. So this allows you to go into your race options. You do have line lock, so that way the front brakes will lock, the rear brakes will release, and you can do a burnout to get those rear tires warmed up. You have launch control. You can choose where you'd like the RPM to go, so that way you can launch. There's also the chiller. So you can use the air conditioning for the chiller in order to further cool this vehicle. So after doing some hot laps or some racing, you have the race cool down as well. So you can monitor everything with this vehicle and make sure you are in tip-top shape. Now there's also different driving modes. You can go into auto, custom, sport, or track, and you will notice how it will change all of these just depending on the mode there. And then we can also go back into your performance pages. Now while that's loading, there's an air vent on both sides of that screen. And then down below, there's power and volume for the audio as well as tuning. You have mute, you can actually shut that upper screen off. And then there's a shortcut to SRT as well as launch control, parking sensors, and traction control. And with that screen brought up, you have a lot of info to go through. You can look at all of that information as well as timers. You have gauges, even a G-force meter, your engine, and then your dyno too. So you can pull up all of that information, which is awesome to see. There's also a shortcut for it too. And then we have settings and your phone when you can pair that and have that ready to go. Now also down below, there's all of the climate adjustments. So there's the fan speed, your temperature dials, some recircs too, a little bit of storage, and then check out this aftermarket shifter. There is a release at the top there, so I'll just push on that, pull it backwards. We have the backup camera, and then you can also go into drive and then use this to shift. Honestly, it feels super comfortable. I really like that aftermarket look there. There's two cup holders in the middle, and then you have a little bit of space with some auxiliaries and the center armrest, and the glove box also has plenty of space with that split style. And then up top, there's garage door buttons as well as a sunglass holder. And then as far as visibility goes, we do have a pillar right there, but the windows are so large on both sides that you can see around it along with using your side mirrors. And it is nice to have that window right there so you can easily see around that pillar too. As we set off now behind the wheel for this Super Stock, we'll give it a little bit of gas. And it's hard to argue with the supercharger whine that Dodge has in their vehicles. It sounds really good. It's almost louder than the exhaust for this particular model. I thought the exhaust was going to be a little bit louder. It sounds like that in its idle. Well, let's do that again here. It's still pretty loud. It's got that healthy V8 note that you want if you're looking for a muscle car like this. But for the Super Stock, this is a pretty interesting model to see. I've only seen two of these around. They're not all that popular, I would say, compared to some of the other models, especially some of the other more traditional Hellcats, I'll call it. And I think why? Because we have the rear seat delete. This is a big two-door vehicle. So this is something that you could have 5 people in if you're looking for a two-door vehicle, but you want that practicality. You want the trunk space, as you've seen in this one. For the Super Stock though, you're going for maybe a little bit of weight savings deleting the back seats there. This is still pretty heavy, but at the same time too, a little bit more track focused. It would be cool to see maybe a different seat for this. If we're taking out the back seats, maybe put in a little bit more of a sporty bucket style seat for your front passengers, because this is something, if you're buying, you might be, or you better be taking it to the track more than just driving it every day like this. But let's use this shifter down below. Shifts are pretty smooth too. This is something that is going to be pretty lightning quick, especially if you're at the drag strip and you want to get this out, get those quick times. You have the automatic here to quickly row through those gears, which is nice. And this is a cool aftermarket shifter. I haven't seen one before in a Challenger. I really like the design of this grip, especially over the factory one. But I've been able to drive the Challengers a lot as a daily driver in general. This is a nice vehicle. They're very smooth, they're comfortable, they're quiet, they're easy to use. We have a lot of tech that you can go through. Of course, you can go with some lower trim levels that are going to be significantly less in cost compared to this one. But it's just a nice vehicle. If you're, all you want is a two-door vehicle, but you want something that is pretty roomy and spacious, it's almost like we're sitting in a Dodge pickup truck. It's that big and spacious on the inside here. So it's not going to be like a Miata, for example, that's going to be very small and almost claustrophobic for some people as far as the sizing difference goes. So this is pretty spacious, it's pretty roomy. I've got a lot of headroom too. So at 5'10", I could even put on a helmet and have no issues taking this out and being prepared for whatever driving that I'm doing for the day. Sounds really good. That Supercharger whine is fantastic. But it is nice too that for this model, you do even have the different driving modes. So you can set it up for daily driving, you can set it up for track use. We have almost 1,000 horsepower to those rear wheels. So it's putting out a lot of power with some simple modifications too. I don't have the build sheet on this, but from what I've seen with friends who have vehicles like this, you can do a simple pulley upgrade and maybe a few other minor modifications, and under $1,000 or so, you can pull out a lot more power for these engines. So it's really cool that they are that easily moddable. You don't have to put a lot of money into them to have a track focused, or really a drag strip focused sports car that you can daily drive. And from second gear, here we go. Shifts are a little bit abrupt, and I mean that in a good way. It gives you that driver feedback, especially when we have it in the track setting ready to go. But this is what it's like to be behind the wheel for the SRT Super Stock. And I really like that Dodge has these performance-oriented vehicles that give you everything. You can take this straight from the lot, go through its break-in period, and then you're ready to go. You don't have to buy anything extra. You can buy this vehicle equipped, ready to take it to the drag strip and use all of the performance. The one downside I will say is it's still a pretty heavy vehicle at 4,500 pounds or so. That's big. That's more than my mid-sized Toyota Tacoma weighs. And so, yes, it has a lot of horsepower, but at the same time too, you're pushing a lot of weight. So it's kind of a trade-off. I do wish these were not quite as bulky or as heavy. It's significantly more than some other performance vehicles in this price point and in a similar performance. You can be in a vehicle that has less horsepower and be quicker than this just because of that weight. And I'm not going to bash it for that. It is interesting to see how much it weighs. It needs that power to push all of this weight. But there's no denying that it sounds really good combined with that supercharger and that exhaust. But as far as driving it, just on normal roads like I am right now, it's a fun vehicle. Super comfortable, like I've said, easy to see all around. We got the hood bulges, which just give it a really cool character from this angle. And there's not really much else. It's kind of basic, but it gives you all that performance that you need. And that's kind of it. It's a driver's car that has all of those functionalities to it. And then of course you could daily it if you wanted to. That is going to wrap it up though for the Dodge Challenger SRT Super Stock. Once again, huge shout out to Caroline Auto Direct for providing this for me today. Take a look at their website. That link is down below. Give the video a huge thumbs up and consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. And I will see you all in the next video.